All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Why Brands Work. It's been a little while since we've recorded one, just with our schedule, and we got all the first few out at one time. Been seeing a lot of people listening and downloading, so we're really excited. And today I'm here with Will, as usual. How you doing, Will?
What's up, everyone? Excited to dive into Black Rifle.
Yeah, today we're going to be covering Black Rifle Coffee. Pretty interesting brand. A lot of stuff going on here. We'll kind of follow the same thing we've been doing before. We'll jump into why you should care about this brand to begin with. We'll talk a little bit about their products. We'll jump into what marketing they're doing, talk about the team behind it, and we will, as usual, finish up with kind of the three reasons that each Will and I think why this brand works. So yeah, Will, I know you've definitely got some numbers behind Black Rifle. So why don't you give us a little bit of insight onto why we should care? How big is this brand? What's going on?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really cool about this brand is they're actually a publicly traded company,
Mhm.
which is interesting because there's not a lot of these, you know, startups in the D2C space that have launched in sort of the last 10 years that are already public. Um, so that's been really cool to do some research. And through that research, we were able to find out that they had over 200,000 people on a coffee subscription.
Wow.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And you should care about that because it's hard to just get one person on a subscription,
And
get one of 200,000. Um, yeah, and I think that they're really good at multi-channel too. We can dive into that.
yeah, because they have like coffee shops themselves, actually.
Like coffee shops, they have their coffee subscription business. They have a fast-moving consumer business too, and you can go get their like coffees like in gas stations.
Yeah.
Like I don't know which here where I'm in Atlanta, there's like Quick Trip and Racetrack and
Mhm.
stuff like that where you can get them at.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm currently in Colorado, so there's actually a lot of Black Rifle out here
Yeah.
because it's a Utah-based company.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
based it started in Utah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm actually not that far from an actual like Black Rifle. I mean, not that far, as in like 6 or 7 hours
Sure.
probably. But that's not far for America. Um, I'm not that far from an actual Black Rifle coffee shop.
Uh,
And if I had really been putting in the work for the podcast, I would have driven out there, right? No. Uh,
I tried to go. They had one. Actually, uh, they had one in near me, like maybe 30 minutes away, but it said it's closed. On Google,
Interesting.
whatever places because I wanted to go check it out because they do look really cool. The
Yeah,
coffee shops. Like, I've watched on YouTube videos on it. The
yeah,
outpost, I think they call it the outpost.
right. I think they're only
Yeah.
outposts. Or outposts might be just places that carry the coffee,
Okay.
rather than are actually like the coffee shop themselves. Because there is actually one in Colorado, maybe a couple hours in it. I was like, oh, maybe I should drive out here. But it wasn't outlisted, but it was like this very janky looking convenience store that just happened to be a place that sold, they had like a big Black Rifle sign on their window. You could see in like a Google image search. So yeah, so they have some like really interesting, weird kind of distribution things that are going on, some unique approaches to all of that. And yeah, if you haven't inferred from now, Black Rifle Coffee is obviously a coffee company. They've been around for what, almost 10 years now or so. It's about they definitely were first wave of like D2C brands very early on in kind of the
Yeah.
space of digital marketing, and they really did pioneer a lot of you go back and look, and some of the founders have previous like e-com business experience, and it's very much the early days of e-com where people are like, you could still make money off of just kind of printing t-shirts, and like selling that online.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of very like OG experience in the e-com space, which I think is probably one of the reasons they were able to so grow so quickly, become a publicly traded company. And it's been pretty cool to see just how massive they are, but within a very specific niche. Like it's definitely not for everyone. Talk about choosing sides here, in such a like charged climate that we live in right now. Obviously, Black Rifle, it's very much that's we're talking about guns, like they're all of their imagery and the way they make their the content they do, everything around that is very geared towards veterans, first responders, police. That is their main customer and their main people. They say like tribe. That's the tribe that they want to be cultivating and building around, which I think is a very interesting tactic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the founder or one of them was on the record is just saying, like, I know who my customer is and I know who my customer isn't,
Mhm.
And it's kind of like basic marketing, like we hear that a lot. You hear that in marketing textbooks or on, stuff
Mhm.
like that. But I feel like a lot of brands out there, like, they don't always know who their customer isn't, you know?
Right. Right.
And in this one, the avatar is so crystal clear.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's really, I think, helps position them well.
Yeah. I mean, it, it's so important to do so, to have an actual idea, right? Of
Yeah.
this is for somebody. And, I think people brand marketers and brands are a little chicken sometimes when it comes to this because they're afraid of alienating part of the market, or they're afraid of backlash and things like that, that they try to be for everybody, which just it's not a good marketing strategy, because
Yeah.
you have to speak to what people are feeling or thinking or actually want out of the brand. Because, the thing I love to say is like my, bastardization of the Simon Sinek quote. People don't buy what you do, they buy how you make them feel, and I think that this is a very important thing. It's like, if you're not feeling something from a brand, you don't have any connection to it. And, when it comes to Black Rifle, they have both their customers and their non-customers feeling something. So, people are remembering this brand, whether it's because they love it or hate it. And that's a really key thing. And so I think that it's kind of a masterclass in that regard, of being able to actually choose who your audience is, and then take it to the next level, where it's not just a platitude. It's not just something where you're like, oh, we're for this group of people. No, this is actually who we are. It's in our DNA. It's very, very deeply ingrained in every single move that we make. And so that's kind of some of the stuff that I'm really excited to jump into today, is like, how do they actually use that in a way that that resonates with their customer? Because you can say these things and pretend you're for something, but Black Rifle really is for veterans, really is for, military service members and things like that. And so it's a very cool brand to look into from that perspective, of just how deeply and how hard they're willing to go on that one note to create an actual community around it.
Yep. Totally. It is a masterclass, as you say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the product itself. So I haven't had Black Rifle coffee before. Have you had it?
Yes, I have it. Do you want me? Hold on. I'm gonna get the bag real quick. We got kind of. We hit outdoor. Off the right here. The Black Rifle. For Black Rifle, just black. That's what I bought.
Black Rifle plus black. Okay. It's a little blurry, so we can't really see it. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Nice. So for podcast listeners listening, or if you're just listening to this, not watching the video, the aesthetic is camo. The bag is camo. It's very. There's a lot of passion in there. It's like
There's a bald eagle holding a gun
Yep.
in one hand. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the guns. I don't know the guns. Some sort of gun. Some sort of automatic rifle. I mean, in the other hand, the eagle is holding a cup of coffee.
Okay. Right. So that's a great way to talk about what is happening here. And so the funny thing is that we'll get into like the background story behind the product and things like that in a little bit here. But the very first run of coffee that they did as a brand was actually just as like a special product they sold on a different site.
Yeah.
And they did a video behind it, and they made this coffee, and most people bought it just for the packaging. That was like what straight from the co-founder's mouth was like, they ran out because people were buying this coffee just for that reason. Like, oh, this package is so cool. And they've gone very far in that regard of trying to create very distinct, kind of playful, and in some ways aggressively what they want to be, through their
Yeah.
packaging. It stands out on a shelf. It's not just, Sumatra from Starbucks or whatever. It when else are you going to see a cup on a coffee package? So,
Yeah.
from
First
that perspective,
Freedom Vibes, those were their first,
right.
um,
Dark roast freedom bags. Yeah,
yeah. I think they sold like 300 units or 300 bags in the first 10 days.
exactly. Yeah. And it's all around that passion. It was like, hey, this is something
Yeah.
that people love. It resonates with someone. They might just buy it as a gag of like, oh, whatever. But then, what the feedback they got after those 300 people bought was that, hey, damn, this coffee's like actually pretty good, you know? And that goes back to where the actual coffee came from and how it's, they put a lot of work into creating really, really good coffee. And I think that's their goal is to take that to the next level. And give us your, rank it in terms of where I know you drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
You have pretty high standards and preferences. Scale of 1 to 10, where do you think they are in terms of like the type of coffee you're drinking?
Yes, I have a bit of a coffee shop. I would say it's probably like a 6 or 7.
Okay.
It's
All right.
not it's not like Folgers, okay? It's definitely premium. It's a
Yeah.
step up.
Yeah.
It's not though like kind of like what you said, like single origin Ethiopian roast that these coffee. I'm putting it in my AeroPress for my chin. It's not like what you would get as like from a barista at a coffee shop in like Berlin or New York
Sure.
or San Francisco. It's not that type of coffee. I would rank as probably a 9 or a 10. But it is like fresh. It's like you can get a lot of different types of roasts. You can even get it as whole bean. And
Did you get it as grounds or whole bean?
grounds and whole bean. And it's like comparable. It's also like the one I have. I just have just black. Like it's a good cup of black coffee. I've been drinking it. I drank one this morning.
Yeah. Let's get ready for the podcast.
Yeah, and it's like it's comparable to me. Like I've bought recently coffee from like my favorite is this one called Counterculture that I routinely buy. It's in Whole Foods and Target. When I bought the Whole Foods like Ethiopian single origin week ago, and like that was okay. I'd rate that like like a 7 or an 8.
Okay. Okay.
So it is like quality coffee. I would say definitely is good coffee. Yeah.
But you just got one of their bags off the shelf type thing. I know they do a bunch of different stuff. They have, tons of different roasts, obviously, between light and dark and everything in between. They do like special drops for their members as well, which might be more like the single batch kind of stuff or whatever, where it's small batch roasted and more premium. Which is, at the end of the day, when we start to talk about this, we have to consider the entire market, the customer that they're selling to, right?
Yeah.
And while Evan, so there's 3 co-founders, we'll get into them a little bit more later, but Evan is the coffee guy of these founders, right? And he is a coffee snob, as well. He's measuring out, the exact amount of water and the temperature of the water. And apparently he was doing this in Afghanistan or in Iraq, as a special forces member, right? And he, there was even a story they told on the Joe Rogan podcast where he was able to get the acquisitions department to buy their unit a $30,000 espresso machine. There's so many things in that, like, allocation of taxpayers' dollars, which he even mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast, that they just get this like lump sum when they're all at war, that he was able to get the acquisitions department to buy them that espresso machine, which is insane to me. And apparently it became like this living legend where everybody that went and served and stayed at that base knew that there's this crazy coffee machine there.
I didn't hear about that. That's wild.
Yeah, the Joe Rogan podcast with the two of them was pretty good. And so they're, this guy's really into coffee. So there's probably a level within the stuff that they sell that is probably pretty, might rank at an 8 or, 8+ for you if you're getting kind of the special membership stuff. But it sounds like, the middle of the road stuff is probably made for, at the end of the day, the people that are drinking 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. they're throwing it into they're buying grounds, throwing it into their 12 cup, pot, and they're making, they're not sitting there AeroPressing or,
Yeah.
pour over kind of stuff with it, because that's part of their market. And so as that kind of brand, you need to have the whole range there. You can have really good coffee, but you can have the like one step up from Folgers. Because that's really, if I were a coffee, I'm making coffee, that's the target market I want to go after, because there's way more people out there buying Folgers than are out there buying counterculture. And there's so many brands that are going after that like counterculture market, which is not that big, but there's a huge Folgers market that I'm like, okay, how can I get somebody to pay $3 or $4 more for the same amount of coffee that you would get from Folgers, and has like a 10x level experience from the Folgers, whether that be through like the marketing and feeling that I get by being a customer of this coffee versus Folgers, or just like a slightly better taste. It doesn't have to be, Folgers is a 3 probably at the end of the day. It's coffee. It's fine. It's not, like off of an airplane, which sometimes is, terrible or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's still coffee. This gets you to like a 5 or a 6 with only spending a few more dollars and feeling a little bit cooler because you're buying this product that's a little bit more interesting.
This is no different than like the coffee. I would say this is going to be even better than what I would get at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts.
Totally fair. Yeah.
The market they're going after there,
Right.
and like they identified like this product is like, people, I'm already going to go drink that coffee, which is okay, but now I'm like going to a brand that speaks to me way more. Like, if I'm a veteran, like I kind of snub my nose up at places like Starbucks,
Of course, yeah,
I'm not
totally.
gonna bag of coffee from like Black Rifle, and it's all about supporting veterans and first responders and stuff like that. So I think that like it's the mix of like, I don't know what you were talking about, like how it makes them feel, and like having a product that is like quality enough, but not like putting in luxury, to the point of like, single origin, whatever, Ethiopian.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I like coffee. I consider myself, I just had like a nice cold brew from, some cafe here down the road,
Yeah.
on the way to the studio. And I appreciate that, but I'm also not above just drinking whatever, I'm not, I don't know what temperature coffee water you need or any of that kind of stuff. And that's how you get 200,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Is that, if I were a veteran, if I had that kind of, emotional connection to it, that would probably be my answer of like, oh yeah, let me do, I'm going to buy this coffee anyway. Let me put myself on subscription for this, get a couple bags every month because we go through so much of it, and drink this just like a little bit better coffee, because I don't, I'm a looking for deals kind of person. Like I've definitely bought like, Starbucks beans and things like that from the grocery store. That is where I would say we kind of fall. And that's the main consumer of coffee. And so if you're building a brand around something like that, I think this is a great tactic for a lot of companies right now, is people are, there's all of this, there's so many more brands doing single origin type stuff, or, someone I think that hit this really well and is going for the larger mass market is actually Graza. Have you seen Graza, the olive oil company?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Graza, their whole innovation around it is like they have these plastic bottles of olive oil. They now just came out with like refillable cans too, so you can get a can and like refill your bottle. But I think that's a really good example, because there are some other, I'm blanking on the names right now, but there are some other like premium olive oil companies and stuff like that where you can get this olive oil and it's like $70 for like a normal bottle of olive oil. And it's like, Jesus, like that is not, I'm never going to pay $70 for a bottle of olive oil, like unless I'm like a chef or trying to do something fancy or whatever with it. But I am willing to spend, I think it's like $22 or something like that for the kind of like 750 milliliter bottle of cooking olive oil. And that's only $4 or $5 more than you would spend on a normal bottle of olive oil. But at least I feel a little bit more like, okay, well, they're in the D2C space. I want to support kind of this like smaller brand. And they have some like, hey, we grow all of our olives in Portugal. Like this is where they come from. So I'm enough of a consumer of olive oil that I'm like, I would like one step higher, but I don't need it to be like extremely fancy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of brands can take that into mind. Where can you find a place that you're able to jump into a larger portion of the market that just wants to go one step higher. It doesn't need to go to the artisanal level, but just wants to get like a little bit more fancy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess with Graza, bumping up, that one, it's like bringing up that price sensitivity a little bit. I think that's even like a steeper curve. Um, because yeah, I've looked at them in Target, I've bought some before, and it's like, yeah, it's probably like $10 more than your average,
Mm-hmm.
olive oil. But it's also like they're positioned more for cooks and have
Mm-hmm.
squeeze bottle too.
Yeah.
I think there is like a little bit of more like practicality, um,
Yeah.
reaching down into that sort of market. That's some of what Black Rifle's done. I think that another thing about Black Rifle's products too that is really unique was they did some, I guess we'll get into it a little bit with the founders, but they launched this like t-shirt, there's a t-shirt store, Originate,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the same concepts from the t-shirt business. Where it's like we're gonna come out with these like really cool, like attractive, sort of cheeky t-shirts around, like what veterans or First Amendment like supporters and patriots and first responders and the shirts that they would buy, and we're just gonna instead of selling t-shirts, we're gonna sell coffee because coffee has a subscription component to it.
Yeah.
Like the founder, like one was literally on record saying this: if you will go and buy a t-shirt once, maybe, but you will get on that subscription for coffee. Like you will drink coffee every day. I drink coffee.
Totally.
So I mean, I think that's another reason why the products work too, is they've sort of taken that playbook from the viral t-shirt trend and just put it on a product that's a consume.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it leads directly into that whole marketing aspect of it. It's like they've included a level of entertainment into a product that is already something that people are buying anyway. And it is already a very advantageous product from a business standpoint in terms of you have built-in repeat purchases, you have a built-in subscription component, you have multiple different varieties, you have gifting ability in there with the entertainment and the humor. You have a lot of like other ecosystem stuff you can build too. They still sell, there's so much Black Rifle merch. There's so much Black Rifle merch. And so, you're kind of able to maintain that, the t-shirt kind of vibe and the virality and the entertainment factor, but then you're slapping on a product there that is something that people are going to buy all the time, are going to buy every month and engage with every day. And so that is really cool. And you hit on something really, really interesting. And it's something that we have talked about a lot with a few of the brands that we've done before. The first one that comes to mind for me is Liquid Death. And, we just mentioned the entertainment value. But of the three founders, two of them are primarily content creators.
Yeah.
And that is the running trend now. That is the secret sauce. If anyone's looking for the one tactic to take away from why brands work or from any of these episodes, you can go stop listening right now. You can go start figuring out how to make better content, because that is what we're consistently seeing over and over and over again right now, is that if you are good at being entertaining, people are going to buy your product. And the reason that is that you're going to reach the right customer, because that's all it comes down to. You have to get the right customer to see it. And the only way that that's going to happen is by being genuinely entertaining. And so let's talk a little bit so we talked already about Evan. He's the coffee guy. But we have Matt and Jared. So just to preface all of these guys are ex-service members. A lot of them were special forces or like some sort of like I think Evan was a Green Beret. I think Jared, he was like it's called like tacky or something like that. My dad and brother will probably be, upset for me for not, knowing what that is, but they could help us out if they did. But they were all some sort of special forces deployed for multiple tours. And then after that also worked in a contract position where they're going out not as like a member of the military, but actually as a contractor soldier. And
So CIA, like
yeah,
the factors of the CIA.
exactly.
They were like high level Again, I'm not like versed in this, but special forces, like you said, they were operated,
Yeah.
they were like high quality trained.
Right.
Uh,
They're like have 100% seen a lot of actual firefights and extractions
yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that they've done as well. A lot of the stuff they talk about is having friends and people that they've lost through this whole process, and seeing friends that have had terrible experiences of coming back for afterwards, and like just really getting into like the problems with the VA and the problems with like, we something that one of them said is like, as a government, we're so excited to send 16 to 20, or 20 to 25-year-olds out to war. But that's where the excitement ends. Like nobody cares about what happens when they get back and actually taking care of them. And so that's one of their driving missions behind all of this, is to actually help with that and to build it up. But something so interesting about these guys is that Jared and Matt specifically, when they were not, they would be on tour. You go for, 6, 9, 12 months at a time, and then you come back and you have, 3 months off or something like that.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of recuperating. And Jared and Matt spent the entire time when they were back separately, just like binge creating content. And Matt said he was creating this content and then going back and being deployed again, and just like drip feeding it out on like Facebook and stuff, just trying to like get people to laugh and get people to like engage. And he was just kind of doing it as a, hey, I'm sharing this on Facebook, trying to get some laughs, trying to get people to like understand kind of the plight of being a soldier, these kind of feelings. He was talking about the stuff that he said a lot of people felt like content shouldn't be created about. Kind of really expressing the kind of hardships of duty in a funny way, that a lot of the people that he was serving with were saying like, oh my gosh, dude, like I can't believe, that I've said that 1,000 times to my wife or whatever, or like, it really resonated with this audience. And so that was Matt. And then on the other side, we had Jared, and Jared, kind of a similar story. He's getting,
we call him JT sometimes.
yeah, JT. So, he's, I was a government contractor. He switched from like active duty to government contractor, and you can make a lot of money doing that kind of thing, especially if you have the right training and experience and things like that. He mentioned at some point he got a $90,000 bonus. And by the way, these are when military people get bonuses like that for duty and things like that, it's not taxed. So he just got a straight check for 90K.
Yeah.
And he said he spent the entire thing on building a recording studio, recording and like video studio.
Yeah.
So he just spent, and so that shows you he was so committed to like essentially becoming a filmmaker.
Yeah.
He was making all these videos. He had like a fake news anchor thing that was going on, or like a fake news team, and this whole like, it was called like, I can't remember, like some sort of like cooking show that was like really intense or whatever, trying to find the same kind of like vibe that Matt had actually already hit on. And Matt sent him a video through a Facebook page that he moderated and was like, hey, could you share this? And apparently JT saw Matt, was just like, this is the guy that's missing. Like,
yeah, Matt was like the talent.
He's the talent. He's the base.
Yeah.
He's like the actor. He's in front of the camera all the time. He's a real little handsome guy, like, jacked, and like has the humor bone and can really do it. And so they started teaming up and building separate businesses. That's where Article 15, the t-shirt company, came from. They had I think they were also working on this with Evan as well. It was before the coffee started, but they had a whiskey brand too called like Leaf Slingers.
Evan is, so there's the content. Then Evan is just like some sort of mini serial entrepreneur here. There was Lead Slingers Whiskey.
Yeah.
Their first, it's still around today. I was looking at it.
Yeah.
That was their first real joint venture between all of them. I forget, like, I was reading about it. They all three met somehow. JT, I think, was sort of the quote unquote the glue that brought everyone together.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they went down to Salt Lake City, and just started making content together, seeing what Evan was doing. And I think that, there was Lead Slingers Whiskey was the first one.
Yeah.
At the time, also, Evan was working on a bunch of other businesses too. There was Spray. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't.
This is like a Kickstarter for the firearm community. I guess like
Okay.
people who are like firearm projects, because you can't sell firearms. You can't do any sort of Kickstarter on that type of project.
Okay.
In like on Kickstarter. So
Right.
that I think eventually they shut that down. And there was also this Ready Man business, which is still around today.
Mm-hmm.
And that is sort of like a training and stuff. I think Evan was working pretty hard on that. I think Evan at the time also him and his wife had like a coffee shop. I think that was originally
Okay.
what was going on too. So there's a lot of different things going on. But yeah, at some point, like in 2014, there is this merger of something going on between Article 15 and what Evan is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they start selling uh like it's a Black Friday special event. They sell this on the Article 15 site, the dark roasted freedom bags.
Right.
Uh, so it's hard to like there was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And also another thing I found out was JT also had a Facebook community called the Drinking Bros or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were drinking. I don't know if it was like they were drinking the whiskey, or I don't really know. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But that officially, the Freedom Bags officially became the coffee of the Drinking Bros Facebook group. So I think, like, long story short, like all these guys were really sort of creative and entrepreneurial. Trying a lot of different things. And then eventually it was like coffee kind of started. And they still sell the merch and the t-shirts too, but
Yeah.
those just ended up merging. And coffee was really the product that is really driven the valuation on this business to that specific market.
Yeah. I mean, the real business is content.
Yeah.
The real business for a lot of these brands is content. And because at the end of the day, yeah, coffee has a huge market. It's probably the product that they could sell to 90% of their fan base, right?
Yeah.
But in my eyes, you honestly could have put almost anything in there. It was just kind of the smartest one to do as far as like market penetration and like repurchasability. Because when you come back to it, did you watch the video of how they launched the Black Friday coffee that they did?
I watched one of the videos. I'm not sure if I watched the video that you were.
So this video went insane because they apparently JT knew some guy who was one of the only people that privately owned some like military helicopter, and they went out to like an airstrip, and they filmed like a vehicle. I think it's called like a vehicle interdiction of the Grinch, where basically it's like a helicopter, them chasing the Grinch driving a car, but they're flying after him in a helicopter.
Nice.
And that was like the launch video for this coffee.
Nice.
So, replace coffee with literally anything else, skincare, like men's skincare, like deodorant, or, whatever it ends up being, whatever thing you kind of want to throw out there, and could be like a repurchasable or product that you want to like start. If you have the right kind of branding around it, it's that content that is selling it. It's the attention that you're getting on there that then how do you capture that attention and put them into a funnel where X percentage of them are going to actually purchase. And at the end of the day, like that's the genius behind this brand. It's being creative. It's creating something cool, creating something that people should talk about. And is again, I'm going to say this over and over again, is genuinely entertaining. Is actually something that people want to talk about, and will spend 10 minutes watching a video of this because they think it's funny, or they think it's cool, or they feel something from it. So yeah, that's really the key of this, is that the content creators are always going to be the winners in these kind of situations, because it's just about being creative. It's just about kind of pushing the envelope and thinking outside the box and making something. So that's why I've been the most inspired by this. It's just like, all right, there's a lot to take from here, of like how many times you really just have to keep trying to create something because of all the businesses they had before this and all the content that they put out. You look at some of Matt's videos from the early days, and they are, it's the heyday of like early Facebook, YouTube videos where they're just like so underproduced. It looks like somebody took a, digital camera and just like uploaded raw footage straight to YouTube. And, that's how much stuff you need to do to actually get to the point where stuff is worth watching and you can put a product on it or sell it, and that's where everyone starts. And that's where, if you're not doing it yet, that's where you should start right now, is building something that people are willing to look at, they're willing to watch, they're willing to engage with, that is going to resonate with your specific customer.
Yeah. Should we jump into the content and the marketing? Because there's a lot to go through here.
Yeah, I think we definitely should.
I think from just like when I, went through their entire funnel, they are driving over probably 800,000 people a month to their site.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. It's not like Skims or, some other brands I've seen, but that's significant. And it's very, they're doing a lot of stuff. I think one thing they do well that I don't see a lot of other brands do is, they have like a podcast and a YouTube channel. But they do like Facebook ads, they even do TV ads, they do podcast stuff. So they're doing a lot of stuff like that. But one thing that they do is they have like their own, like an owned media, like almost it's like a magazine, or a blog. One of them is called, let's pull them up right here. Copy or Die. And the other one is Free Range American. And it's similar to, like, if you remember, there was a lot of survival stores back in the day, like drop shipping stores, where they had this sort of type of model. And so they have those own properties that are both driving like significant amount of traffic themselves, hundreds of thousands of visitors each month. And it's not all just about coffee or Black Rifle Coffee. It's all about this entertaining to this audience, which doesn't always have to be humor for them. Humor works really well, but it could just be, articles about, they're like, if you go to Free Range American right now, for example, you can pull that up. Like what are they talking about there? It's the latest articles are, this something on the SIG 1911 X series. So it's all about like guns and Glock. There's one on skydiver rescue. There's one on backcountry camping. Here's one on trail cameras. So yeah, I mean, like, it doesn't always have to be this like witty sort of stuff that we see in other brands that we've talked about, like Vacation or Liquid Death, that are very, there's a lot of, humor, I would say, especially with Liquid Death is really driving that. It's just finding what is valuable to that audience.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because on the other side of that as well, you have the Glocks, they have hunting, the camping, all kind of tangentially related to this market, right? But I think something that's very interesting, where they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of views on some of these videos on just the Black Rifle Coffee YouTube, is like hero stories. It's like it's like, oh, this extraction that somebody did, tell me about, and they interview the person that did that. And then a ton of the stories that they're doing are actually employees of Black Rifle as well. So they're going and telling these stories that, because their whole thing is wanting to support veterans, but not just like, we donate money. Evan's goal is to hire 2,000 veterans, as their 10,000 now. Yeah, it was 2,000. Now it's 10,000.
You read out the marketing stuff?
Oh, I haven't.
Marketing stuff, but they had a spat on Starbucks. And this is a genius marketing tactic.
Yeah.
So you got to hit the push start back in the 2016, 17, 18 era, when Trump was the president and he issued a travel ban.
Right.
Remember that, okay?
Yeah.
And Starbucks vowed to hire 10,000 refugees. And so Black Rifle Coffee decided to create a campaign where they're going to hire 10,000 veterans.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to originally, like, we know who our target audience is,
Mhm.
and who our target audience isn't. Kind of like you said, they're willing to, people have an emotion.
Mhm.
Now people have emotion, like their target market has an emotion, but people who are not their target market have an emotion towards their brand.
Yeah.
So very like, what's the word I'm looking for? Binary or polarizing.
Polarizing. Yeah, exactly.
And I thought that's like really good marketing there because you're anchoring yourself to the market leader, Starbucks. And you just bridge your gap into that market. And again, like there's gonna be a lot of people that hear that, that like you don't support the refugees, you want to just stick veterans, like I hate Black Rifle Coffee. Like I hate everything these people are for. But then there's going to be a portion of the market there that's like, I love this. It's exactly what I'm missing. And those are the type of people they probably won over a lot of people. And now it's still part of their mission today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's missing, you know, when brands approach something like this where they are trying to not step on toes, they are trying to like stay middle of the road and things like that. That's a very naive approach, thinking as if you're going to ever be able to capitalize on the whole market.
Yeah.
If you're a coffee brand and you want to capitalize on the whole market, too bad. Starbucks already did it. Starbucks isn't going anywhere. Dunkin' isn't going anywhere. Like, these are things that have already gained that market share. And yeah, you might be able to chip away at some of it, but you're never going to become Starbucks. You're never going to be able to do that. So you have to find a smaller niche that is still large enough for you to build the size business that you want to grow from, and then go relentlessly after being just for that group of people.
Yeah.
And it's a great example of that. They've done some really, really interesting stuff. They're constantly, like you said, creating content that only applies to the people that also agree with a lot of it. Not only applies, but very strongly applies with people within that niche. And this is something that, I was breaking down all their creative and their emails, their website ads and things like that. And, a majority of the imagery that they use is not coffee or coffee beans or like pour, obviously they use that as like textures and things like that, but it's explosions, it's guns, it's hunting, it's camo, it's, and it's because, something I wrote about with this is that your brand might not be the thing that everyone's right. Your customer might not be, they're not passionate necessarily about coffee. They're not like Evan where they're worried about the roasting temperature and how long and that kind of thing. But they are passionate about something else. They're passionate about hunting. They're passionate about freedom and service. They're passionate about, guns and self-defense things or whatever. And the more that you can use your product to remind your customer about the things that they're passionate about, even if you are not directly related to that, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah.
Because that's where things like, vacation is another really good example of this, because sunscreen isn't your family, but they draw on nostalgia and old thoughts of family trips and things like that make you then think of sunscreen when you think of your family and the great times that you've had at the beach or things like that. And so now people feel even cooler stepping out, with their coffee. They're like, yeah, it's Black Rifle on my way to the shooting range or whatever, it reminds them of like that thing that they might go to. And the more you can double down on that, the better you're going to be. And they do it not just with their marketing, but their products. Did you see the like Zen pouch coffee?
No, I did not see this.
This is absolutely insane to me. It is just it's little Zen basically packs that
Zen, like the dip. Yeah.
the dip. It's like coffee dip. You take a little package. They're these disgusting brown looking packages that you're supposed to just like pop in your mouth and suck on, and it gives you like 60 milligrams of caffeine or something.
So there was a Black Rifle KV with them, or you're just talking about Zen?
No, it's not, it's just, I'm just using Zen as like an example, like, talking about, but Black Rifle's own That's one of their portable coffee solutions. Is it looks like little dip containers.
Okay.
And it's just full of little packs of coffee that you can just pop in your mouth. And so that's an example of taking it all the way. You got to know if if you are going to go the extra mile, that is one of the ways to go, because that's something that when you really get into like military culture and things like that, I'm pretty sure like smoking is, at least when you're in service, it's like the banned. I know for sure on like, obviously like, everybody on like a submarine dips, because you obviously can't smoke on a submarine. And so there's a aspect of the military that it's like an if you know type thing, where dip is popular in the military. And so now we have this like dip version of coffee. It's like that is really knowing your customer. That's really going to that next level of being someone that is a part of the tribe and is bringing those people in and is talking about things and inventing things and pushing things that are getting the people in your community excited.
I found it right here. The coffee ground pouches.
Yeah, coffee ground pouches. Oh, they look disgusting.
Yeah.
Like they open the pack or whatever in one of the photos, and I was just like, this is like the least appetizing thing I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah. But that is very like that is a very good like bridging their brand to a product that other people that are in their market are using.
Exactly. And it's kind of, it's a very niche thing for them.
Yeah.
I don't know, I have no idea what the, Zen is just like taking over the world apparently. They like everybody dips with it. It's like, it's nuts. I've never realized this, but
I tried it. It like it gave me a headache. I mean,
Yeah.
it gave me a headache when I tried it too, when I was
Yeah.
user, but
Yeah.
with a headache, I'm not that much of a nicotine person, but but yeah, like I could see why it is better than dip,
Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's, I'm blown away by this brand. I hadn't really, they hadn't really been on my radar until you brought them up a couple months ago as a possibility for us to do an episode on. And then the deeper and deeper I got into it, I was just like, I'm so impressed with how they've done this. And
They're under the radar because they don't fit the traditional mold, They don't fit up the mold that everyone's talking about on social media because they're kind of it's politically incorrect in a lot of ways,
Yeah, it's charged, and I don't, that's obviously not a reason for us to not talk about this. And who knows, maybe we get a little bit of backlash for even like studying this like brand or whatever. But like, you can't
ignore the numbers.
You can't ignore the numbers. You really can't. You cannot. You have to be able to look at how messaging is used, whether it's for, whether through your lens, it's for positive or negative.
Yeah.
And so there's just an aspect of needing to address that kind of thing and just really look at how people are able to engage and in some cases enrage people, and there's an advantage to that. And I think a lot of brands, wherever you kind of land on whatever side of the fence or whatever you want to call it, or need to think about that a little bit more. If you really are trying to get your customers fired up about you, or fired up about the lifestyle or the world and culture that you believe in, what are you doing to actually champion that vision? Who are you going to be today that is actually having them associate and be like, by buying this product, I am this person? Because if they can't say that, you're just another thing that they use during that day. You're not a brand. Like, let's be real, you're actually not a brand, you're just a product. And so you've got to find a way to create a feeling beyond that to actually get people to think about it and be something more than just that product.
Well, so what are your three things here? Like, what do you think are the three things? Why does this brand work for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, it's got to be the content creators. I think that's what laid the foundation for me. Being founded by content creators, being so content first, and just like being able to distribute in a way that you're going to get millions of people to watch. And then, my number two is that's a great funnel to build a product off of. And they chose something that fits a really large market. They chose something that is repeat purchasable. Something that, I'm pretty sure there's pretty decent margins on coffee as well, because you buy it and roast it in such large batches. And then lastly, I think the other portion of it is the positioning of that within the pricing structure of products, like being just a couple steps above, being kind of like the Starbucks cost of beans without being Starbucks and without being single origin, whatever, you're in that middle ground between Folgers and single origin stuff. Those are kind of my three. So the content, choosing the right kind of product, and choosing the right pricing model and position within that industry as their place.
Nice. Yeah.
What do you?
For me, I think that, I just want to start with the fundamentals. I think they do a really good job here. That clear, crystal clear avatar. We talked about that in the show. That they know who they are and they know who they are not. I think even a lot of successful brands can't answer that question. It's a clear mission too. I always like to see brands with strong missions. I think that immediately we very lightly touched on this, like how it's much more than just like creating funny content or creating like content around veterans and selling coffee. They have this whole mission around helping veterans.
Yeah.
So I think that is like very cool to see. I think that's why why this brand works. I think a lot of that target market is attracted to this brand because of the mission. I think we kind of hit on their concept. I'm just gonna call it traffic, like traffic machine. It's really good at just getting, raising awareness, getting impressions to the brand through all sorts of types of mediums, whether it's, social media, YouTube, podcasts, having their own magazines and, doing TV commercials. I even see billboards. I've seen billboards before when driving by one of their local, or if you drive by like if you're on the highway near one of their outposts or whatever, I've seen billboards. So yeah, I mean they're really good at just like broadcasting their brand, entertaining and stuff like that. And I think the business model too is really, really solid. With the coffee, we talked a good bit about like the subscription model they have on their D2C side. We didn't talk too much about their fast moving consumer goods business, which I think is a big part of their valuation and probably why they had to go public, raise capital for all that distribution. Again, it's like one of these things where I go into my local, gas station. Am I going to get a Red Bull today? Or am I going to get a Black Rifle coffee drink with a bald eagle eye and it done? Or am I going to get the Starbucks mocha latte for $2.50? Or am I going to get the, I don't know the name of those products, but am I going to get the Black Rifle coffee one? And I think, a lot of like blue collar America, people are going to choose that brand. So I think the positioning in the business model is very, very sound.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been a fun one. We would love to hear from anyone that's listening. If you have thoughts, feedback on, why do you think Black Rifle works? What is standing out for you? I would love to hear about other brands that you think are doing this kind of stuff well as well. So that we can jump into those too. Obviously, we have a few lined up for the next few episodes that we're going to do, but I would love to get some recommendations. So please leave us a comment, send us a note. You can email either of us if you want to chat about any of this stuff. But we'd love to hear from anyone that's listening. Thanks, Will. Appreciate you. Glad we could do this today. And looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, if anybody wants to download some of the resources, that we have a creative breakdown, a funnel breakdown, an audit. We have all sorts of resources on Black Rifle Coffee that you can download totally for free. So yeah, just head to I don't know what the URL is going to be, but Why Brands Work. Both Handy Why Brands Work, the Liquid Death, you can find it there. Or if you're watching this on our site, you'll find it right below. You can just grab it right there if you want to dive further into this brand.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.